morning, everybody. Welcome back to Nationalist Review. We're now on episode 28 here. I am, of course, James Allsup, joined as always by Nick Fuentes. How's it going?
It's going well. Got my oatmeal square going on over here. Got a big, tall glass of water, tall boy. Got my space heater, feeling pretty warm, pretty cozy. Wearing my shorts and t-shirt. Normally have to be all bundled up, but today I'm nice and warm. How are you doing, my friend? How's it going over there?
Well, I'm colder than you are, apparently. To run the heater in my room, I have the in-the-wall heating, which is nice, which is great. It's not as space-consuming as like a baseboard heater, but to run it, it's very loud, and so it creates a lot of noise that would surely be picked up by the Audio Technica here. So, not running that. Instead, got the fleece on both pants and shirt. And the socks going on, but it's warming up here. Unfortunately, I'm a big fan of the cold winter. I like the cold, frigid winter, and unfortunately, it's now up in the mid 30s here, which is not ideal for the winter time. I like the winters to be cold, summers to be warm, and this winter didn't really deliver. So 5 out of 10 because we did get snow, but not that much.
You got snow. Yeah, we got a little bit of snow. It got really warm in Chicago the other day. It was like 50, or no, it wasn't 50. It was like 40 degrees a couple of days ago. It was a real nice change of pace, getting by after the negative 10s, negative 20s that were going on. But looks like I think we're going back down this week. But that's all right. I'm a NEET. I don't leave the house, so it doesn't really matter what temperature it is outside. We got the space heater inside, and that's all that matters. But yeah, we're surviving the winter over here.
Yeah, thankfully, I recently picked up one of those like artificial fireplaces at Walmart, the little ones with like the fireplace graphic and then the just heater that comes out. So great because I don't have a fireplace here at the house, and it's a great touch. And so I have that downstairs, and that is where I do all of the packing and shipping for the America First merch, the mugs, which are going to be here tomorrow. It's been over a month from our supplier, so we're not very happy about that. But it's going to be all sorted out very, very soon. They'll be here, should be today or tomorrow, and we'll be getting them out as soon as I receive them, packing them up, shipping them out via the 2 or 3 day shipping, like we promised everybody. So that is coming soon. If you've not ordered one, if you order one today or early tomorrow, we'll get yours out with the big shipment we're doing. We still have some left in stock. So go ahead and place that order now at amfirstmedia.com/shop. And you can get your hands on one of those. You can get your hands on one of those. Perfect for hot drinks, in the winter, if it's still cold where you are. I know we got a couple people up in Alaska who ordered them. We're shipping them up that direction. So that's going to be very essential for them to have. And if you are in more of a warm climate, you can put I don't know, rum and coke in it or something. Pull a Julian from Trailer Park Boys and mix it up in there. Whatever you want to do, but order that at amfirstmedia.com/shop. We also have the P.O. box. Oh, I have to get this out of my car for the second hour because we got a nice letter in our P.O. box, and I'll have to run out and get that when we go to the second hour. Read that. And that's P.O. Box 236, Pullman, Washington, 99163. So if you want to, send us letters, donations, whatever you want to do, you can send them in to the P.O. Box. Gifts, we got that board game, like I mentioned a while ago. We're also posting articles on amfirstmedia.com. Over the past 3 days, I think we've had an article a day, or just about an article a day. So I posted one this morning. If you guys saw that, it should be up by now. If you saw the one a couple days ago about the Young Democrats VP who got in trouble for trying to bang a kid, gross Mexican nationalist guy who got busted for that. But yeah, we're doing the article stuff over at amfirstmedia.com. So check out the articles there. And then we have the Twitter page at amfirstmedia. So full-fledged here. We're running on all cylinders, competing in every market. Watch out, Breitbart, because we're coming after you. Maybe we could pick up Sloppy Steve now that he's gone out of Breitbart.
Yeah, no, to be honest, I think we'd be the only ones. We'd be his last option. so to speak.
Right.
Pretty rough. I don't know what's going to happen to this guy. I mean, imagine losing everything in a week. I mean, that was a very quick and a very steep collapse of the Bannon legacy there. Rough week.
Got so far, tried so hard. In the end, didn't even
Mm.
matter. Stephen K. Bannon stepped down from Breitbart News Network, where he served as the executive chairman since 2012. According to Breitbart's website here, Bannon and Breitbart will work on a smooth and orderly transition. Bannon said, "I am proud of what the Breitbart team has accomplished in so short a period of time in building out a world-class news platform." According to Breitbart CEO Larry Solov, Steve is a valued part of our legacy, and we will always be grateful for his contributions and what he's helped us to accomplish. Yeah, the question then is, what is next for Steve Bannon? I mean, he's a guy who got very lucky with coming to Breitbart when he did, and was very successful at shaping Breitbart to what it is today. But he also presided over its decline. Breitbart's glory years were certainly, I think we can all agree, were certainly in late 2015 to mid 2016. And around early 2016, they shaped themselves to be a Trump campaign vessel, and now they're sort of directionless. I mean, they're still good for being really the only anti-DACA news outlet out there, but they're not even as hard on that as they used to be. If you look back to 2015, they were very, very hardline on immigration, and they're no longer pushing the window as much as people like, frankly, us, people like even like Mark Levin is now pushing over the window further than Breitbart is, and certainly Tucker Carlson is too. So yeah, Bannon, I think, showed some good instincts in 2015, but he really failed to continue to use Breitbart to be a vessel for anti-immigration, pro-nationalism. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the problem with Breitbart, I think, is kind of what happened with a lot of other outlets after the election, which is to say that, if you recall, during 2016, political content was so hot. I mean, it was the hottest thing. It was the hottest kind of content. I mean, I think that's why people like Milo, Cernovich, and so on kind of latched onto it, because that's where the money was at. That's where a lot of the attention was at. I mean, people were really into that. And then I think after the election, you saw this really with everybody, is this kind of an existential loss of a purpose. And at the same time, I think a real loss in the market share, because I guess the demand just dried up after the election and the inauguration. A lot of the political stuff kind of died down. I know after the election, it kind of increased a little bit because people were saying, what's going to happen? What's this going to look like? But I think we can all agree that a year after the election, a lot of the political stuff has kind of, I mean, it's not totally subsided, at least compared to other years, but it's gone down since all the hype and the craze of Trump and Hillary. I mean, that was everywhere. So I agree. I mean, Breitbart really did enter a decline after the election because, building up to it, that was the pro-Trump paper. Where Fox News, you would get hate from Megyn Kelly, who was on there at the time. You would get hate from Brett Baer and who was the gay one? I forget his name, but I mean, that's right. All the anchors were against him on like the 5 o'clock show or the 4 o'clock show. And Breitbart was the one conservative outlet where it was pro-Trump. It was Trump propaganda, Trump shilling 24/7. And I think they went really high on their Alexa ranking. They went up past like 50. They surpassed ESPN, but then they plummeted because, once Trump got into office, the message got confused, the focus got confused. Their one objective had been completed. And I think a lot of people lost interest. So, yeah, it's been a pretty rough year for them. And now, obviously, this Bannon thing is devastating.
Well, I mean, that's to be expected, though, right? The decline in political content consumption after an election, like that's all normal. But I think the problem with Breitbart was bigger than that, and that they lost a lot of the will to fight, right? And that they're not echoing the same sentiments. They're not representing the same ideology that they were in 2015, 2016. They're not going down the right path, right? They're not red pilling people like they used to. In 2015, you could go on Breitbart and see, horrific stories about migrant crime. And, Breitbart is actually one of the papers that helped me really get red pilled a lot about a lot of the, migrant crisis and things like that going on. But they don't really cover topics like that anymore. They're not covering illegal alien crime as much as they used to. They're not going as hard on Trump as I believe they should. Right. And this is actually, I think we may disagree here, where you're saying that they found an identity in being the pro-Trump paper, and I certainly agree with that. But after the election of Donald Trump, you need to keep fighting for the principles that cause you to back Trump. And I don't think they've been sufficiently hard enough on Trump, holding his feet to the fire on things like DACA. Now, they certainly do in some articles. Some writers do. I know, like Charlie Spearing is usually a guy who will hold Trump accountable on stuff like this. But as an entity, I don't think they've been willing enough to smack him around when he gets out of line.
Yeah.
Right. And we know that Trump reads Breitbart. We know that Trump listens to Breitbart. And I think there's a lot of potential there for them to use their platform and use their direct line of communication effectively with the president to let him know, hey, the base is pissed the fuck off about you caving on these issues, and they're not really doing it. So if they're not going to do that, if they're not going to use their platform for that, what's the point?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I agree on the first point that Breitbart really stopped taking risks. Once they got a taste of influence, once they got a taste of the court, of the White House and of power, they really did in a big way lose their edge. And I think a lot of their integrity. You compare them to Voice of Europe or Gatestone Institute or any of these other outlets that are out there reporting on migrant crime and reporting on really ugly, terrible things. And like you said, red pilling people. Breitbart was a big reason I got red pilled on so many things. I mean, you go and you check, and every day there would be a story about illegal aliens or about migrant crime or, about gender stuff. And for a long time, that was the edgiest thing out there. And I think once they got inside, once they got on the inside with Trump and they got something to lose, essentially, that's when they lost their edge. And it's unfortunate. But on the topic of Donald Trump and them being hard on him, I think they've been pretty hard on him. I mean, they called him, the headline in September when the DACA deal came out of Schumer's office was Amnesty Don. So, I mean, I guess, we obviously disagree on the black pill, white pill stuff. So maybe that's, why we disagree on how hard Breitbart's been on them. But I think just moreover, they've become basically Fox News. They've become, Fox News Light. And that's their problem. If they remain Breitbart, if they, I see some of their articles these days, and it's by like that guy Qasim something. It's like, really? So we got the based Muslim. They had an article the other week that was like 5 gay conservative icons, and it's like Chadwick Moore, fucking retard, and all these other people. And it's like, we don't want that. We want a real conservative publication. We don't want Fox News Light. We don't want Fox News even in some cases. We want something that is dedicated, I think, to definitely a strident nationalist angle, and Breitbart really conceded that in a big. I think they all did. InfoWars, Breitbart, every single one of them, because I guess they got a taste of that Mercer money, and then suddenly the principle became a lot less important.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, looking at the Breitbart front page right now, they don't have anything in the top 6 boards about DACA. They do bury it in section like 6 here, where they say, Jeb Bush rallies for President Trump's DACA bill of love. White House says DACA deal is not amnesty. They're kind of the angle that you can see the angle they're taking, right, which is not attacking, but just presenting it as kind of weak and goofy. And like that is certainly effective for some people. But I think that, again, when you're dealing with news like this, you kind of have to cater to a pretty low common denominator and be a little bit more explicit about what's going on. And the thing is, you can read the Breitbart comments, and people are pissed. The people want harder content. I was on the Breitbart comments last night on Facebook, and I commented, like, they just posted a story. I don't usually comment on Facebook news stories because I'm not like a boomer or a cat lady looking to like get in debates, but they just posted it like 30 seconds ago. So I thought, okay, great time to red pill people. So I posted like a chart of voting patterns by race, and I was like, demographics matter. Amnesty means no more Republican presidents, that kind of stuff. And it got voted the top comment on the thing, and a bunch of people in there like agreeing with it, and a bunch of similar comments. So I think that the Breitbart audience is significantly more to the right than Breitbart is, and they need to start hiring people like Jared Taylor to run their Twitter account now that he's banned. Yeah. Anyways, yeah. So Bannon, I think next for Bannon is probably getting a job in one of these campaigns that he's trying to run. Doing something like that. We'll see. And I think Bannon's next step will tell us a lot about who he is, and will settle a lot of the debate about, whether he's based or not, whether he's our guy or not. If Bannon goes to work for like Turning Point as like a consultant or something, or he goes to work for, some Beltway type organization, we'll be able to see, okay, this guy was not legitimate from the start. But if he goes out and truly tries to redeem himself and truly starts running to drain the swamp and running an organization that has the goal of draining the swamp, then, okay, he'll redeem himself. Like I said, I'm perfectly willing to take Bannon back into good graces if he turns out to be our guy.
Yeah. I mean, now would be the time for a redemption. I don't really know what to expect, because I don't really know what transpired with Bannon still. I mean, I know we've been talking about it for the past couple of episodes, and I really talked about it last night, where I really just don't think we'll ever know exactly what happened here, or at least we don't know now, in the sense that, like, we know what the mainstream narrative is, which is that, well, maybe Bannon just ran his mouth this time, and it finally caught up to him. Maybe Bannon did say that, and he offended Trump's family, and that made Trump drop him for good. And, I think that certainly is a possibility. I certainly think that is a plausible scenario where that could have happened. But I really just can't fathom. Just something seems not right about this. And I said last night as well that there was this article in The Hill this week about how Sebastian Gorka was instructed by somebody in the White House to speak with Michael Wolff, the author of Fire and Fury. And he was supposed to meet him in Reince Priebus's office, and he was told by the White House to cooperate with this book. And it just really makes me think that both Gorka and Bannon were kicked out of the White House at the same time in August. Gorka was instructed to cooperate with the book. Bannon, maybe he was instructed, but I mean, he certainly was in it. And it looks like what he said maybe had some truth, and obviously it cost him his political career. So, I mean, that Gorka thing, it really rubs me the wrong way. Obviously, that's not sufficient to construct like a conspiracy theory, but it is just something odd. And I'm not totally confident in the mainstream narrative. I think it's plausible. I think it's definitely possible, and maybe even likely. But that Gorka thing, and just the way it all went down, it just seemed very fishy to me. So I can't forecast what his next move will be, as we don't really know what exactly happened, but it'll be tough for him to find redemption, given that, I mean, he's been burned by everybody, and even the people that would embrace him, he scorned and rejected, I guess, for the sake of either political pragmatism, or maybe he was a boomer all along. But the people that would have embraced him would have been the alt-right, white nationalists, and so on. And he repeatedly made it clear throughout his career that he was not associated with them. He disavowed them. He went to Zog and all of that. So it's I don't know where the fuck this guy's gonna land. Probably a consultant, maybe a speaker, like the rest of them do. But we'll see.
Yeah. Yep, he'll be on that the good old Turning Point USA list of speakers at SAS 2018 or some garbage like that. Hey, maybe we'll see him at CPAC.
Yeah,
Who knows? Meet Sloppy Steve.
That'd be cool.
Take him out for drinks if he's not already blasted. The midterms are shaping up, and the midterms are coming, so plenty of opportunities there, I'm sure, to work with somebody. And as we know, there's a lot of these congressional seats that are going to be open and going to be, a path cleared for Republicans to run and possibly win, for harder line Republicans, harder line nationalists to run and win these seats as the cucks begin to retire. We're seeing this morning that now Representative Darrell Issa, Republican from California, announced on Wednesday warning that he will not seek another term in the U.S. House, boosting Democrats' hope for a wave election that could see Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi recover the Speaker's gavel. This is also from Breitbart here. During his 2016 re-election bid, longtime Congressman Issa held on to his seat with a razor-thin margin against the Democrat in the race. His announcement follows the announcement Monday by Rep. Ed Royce that he would retire after this year. Yeah, I didn't include that in the prep. But yeah, Ed Royce, also from California, who is a big pro-DACA representative, is retiring. Though Issa's district is largely in San Diego County, both men represent parts of Orange County, a traditional Republican stronghold that has trended Democrat in recent years. I can only imagine why these formerly conservative suburbs are beginning to trend Democrat. Could it possibly be due to the fact that different people are coming into these suburbs and the demographics of these suburbs are changing and becoming less conducive to people who vote Republican? Could that be it, or would that be racist, Breitbart? I don't know. Would it be racist for me to say that, Breitbart? I don't know. California Republicans were also skittish about the new $10,000 cap on state and local tax deductions in President Trump's new tax reform, which could help hit wealthy taxpayers hard in the Golden State. Urbanites blown the fuck out. So yeah, dude, we're seeing these again. We're seeing these center right, center left GOP types just get washed away with the tides as the Overton window shifts and they fall out the leftward flank of it. So good news.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's very encouraging to see what's going on with the midterms. You got a lot of these old guard Republicans dropping out, obviously Orrin Hatch and Jeff Flake, and now this going on. So, it's very encouraging. I think we are really seeing a transformation of the party from the inside. I think a lot of people thought that we would have had to, what do they call it? Canter everybody. They thought we were going to have to canter all these GOP leadership people, but it looks like they're all dropping out by themselves. And, the only thing that has to happen now, of course, is we have to replace and substitute all these outgoing old guard rhinos with, real nationalist Republicans, real traditionalist conservatives. And hopefully that'll happen. The difficult thing is obviously just the party apparatus. It's the money, it's the clout, it's the networking. It's just what it takes to win a race is you need money, you need to rub the shoulders and all that. But we'll see. It's certainly very encouraging. I think the map favors us. The economy favors us. We have a lot of things going for us building up into 2018. We have a lot of momentum, I think, and especially after the tax bill. It's just up to the president to keep it going, keep everybody focused, keep us on the right track, because, I think in this midterm, more than in any other midterm before, this is going to be a referendum on Trump. And I know that's kind of a tired talking point. They say that for every special election that's happened since 2016. But really, you think about like the Bush or the Obama midterms, and while they were, the Obama midterms were about Obamacare and about the handling of the recession, and the Bush midterms were kind of a referendum on the Iraq War, or not the Iraq War, that hadn't happened yet, but the handling with 9/11 and other things. And with Trump, I think the midterms will be almost entirely on, do you like Trump or do you not like Trump? Democrats, the messaging will not be economics or immigration or trade. It'll be Trump is evil. Look at Trump. He's crazy. Trump is a bad man. Trump, Russia. And the Republicans, I think, will be running on issues more so. And I think that'll be a strength. But I think we have a lot going for us going into this.
I don't think we have anything going for us. We do have things going for us naturally, but the GOP has things going for them, unfortunately, because this tax bill is shaping up to be pretty good for people. And this is going to give the GOP candidates, unfortunately, a big win. And it gives them something to run on. And I think that is actually one of the things that is not good for us. It is important. It's kind of a dual strategy here, right? We're kind of in a catch-22 where we want the GOP types to retain their seats for the sake of not flipping the House and letting Trump get impeached, right? Because if the House flips, Trump will be impeached. Like that's the thing. However, we also don't want them to retain their seats because that gives wins to bad people who don't have our interests at heart, right? Who have GOP globalist interests at heart, and not the American people, not nationalism's interest at heart. So it's kind of a catch-22 for us here. And while the tax bill does give a win to incumbents, which can be good in seats that we want to protect, in seats that we want to flip, and seats that we want to primary, I think it unfortunately gives big wins to the people who are currently inhabiting those seats, and makes things tougher, makes life a little bit tougher for their challengers. Now, the good news is that there are not a lot of people challenging incumbents already right now. I mean, I can't think of any races off the top of my head where we have like outsider candidates who are challenging incumbents, aside from obviously Nealon in Wisconsin. I'll need to check that list again, but I can't think of anybody. Most of the races we have that we're concerned about are people replacing retiring members. So, that's good news for us. Of course, one of those races is or who are challenging Democrats in blue seats. Of course, one of those races is Ohio, where it's looking like either Jim Renacci, who we talked about a couple episodes ago, who I am a big fan of, or this guy J.D. Vance, the guy who wrote that Hillbilly Elegy book. I don't know anything about him. Are going to run for Senate. So those are the guys who are challenging the blue states, which is good. But yeah, the tax bill is going to be good for the people, but unfortunately can be chalked up as a win for the GOP establishment too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because everybody who voted for it gets to run on it and say, look, I cut your taxes.
Yeah, so. But I mean, again, you just said we want Republicans to get in. So, I mean, I get what you mean, but at the end of the day, I would take a GOP-E over a Democrat, and only because, a GOP-E, at least, I think we could whip the vote in some way. With Democrats, it's an outright no. And not only is it an outright no, in the House, like you said, there's the risk for articles of impeachment to be drafted. So I think a win is a win, and it'd be nice if we could run all nationalists this year, but we got to have our.
But getting someone who's really signally, like Jeff Flake or little Bob Corker or one of those guys, I think that is a loss. Or Mitt Romney, like that is a net negative. When you have someone who is going out of their way to countersignal the president, going out of their way to vote against the president, someone who is just like, right, someone who's sort of ambivalent. Like, it's not my preference, it's not ideal, but it's acceptable, right? It's acceptable to just pad your majority with the people who are just kind of can go either way. Obviously, you prefer to have the people who are in line all the time, but that's at this point not exactly doable. Speaking of someone who can go either way, Martha McSally down in Arizona now has a challenger for the Senate seat. For those of you who don't know, Martha McSally is currently a U.S. rep from Arizona. She is running to take Jeff Flake's Senate seat when he retires in 2018. And that is now a three-way race between Kelly Ward, a former state senator, Joe Arpaio, the former sheriff of Maricopa County, and the aforementioned Martha McSally. So it was announced yesterday that Joe Arpaio is going to be running for Senate in 2018. And a lot of people reacted to this like, this is great. They think, oh my God, Arpaio is the leading anti-illegal immigration crusader in the party. And this is going to be good news. Unfortunately, I don't see this as great a news as a lot of people do. I think that Arpaio actually has the possibility of splitting the vote for Kelly Ward and letting Martha McSally run through with a 40% plurality. Or the thing is, Arpaio can't win the seat, right? He's 85 years old. He is very unpopular with a lot of the state. He's very popular with the base, but he's sort of like Roy Moore in the sense that he's popular with a certain contingency of the party, but not with enough of the party or the independents to win the seat. And you could easily forecast a Democrat winning the seat if they were to nominate Joe Arpaio. And frankly, a lot of people just won't vote for him because he's too old. He's 85 years old. And, that is disqualifying in the minds of a lot of people. Senate term is 6 years long. And what is this guy going to serve till he's 91? Yeah, I don't think so. And at best, the thing is, at best, you'd be getting him for one term. He would then retire, and you'd have a whole new race to fight over in 2024. with more unfavorable demographics. So yeah, not my impression of this is not as positive as a lot of people. But what
Yeah,
do you
no,
think?
I kind of agree. I don't understand why this would happen. It seems to me like Joe Arpaio and Kelly Ward would split kind of the far right vote. Not like Kelly Ward's far right,
Right.
but I mean, she was going to challenge Jeff Flake as further to the right. And this seems like exactly what happened in Alabama with Roy Moore. And who was the other guy who was running? That's
Mo
right. Yeah, it
Brooks,
seemed like Mo Brooks.
who should have been the candidate who would
Right.
have
And
won.
it seems like exactly that scenario that played out in Alabama. And Roy Moore obviously won in the primary. We pushed very far to the right in the primary and we got punished for it. And in this one, I think you're right. It might be the same. Joe Arpaio, we obviously like him. We're obviously very hardline. But would he be able to pull it off in the general? I don't know. I haven't looked at the polling, so I can't really say whether or not that would be a good thing. But I mean, those are obviously valid concerns. He's got a reputation that precedes him as being very, very, very far right on immigration. And people say, "Oh, he's not that. That's a mainstream media lie that he's far right. Enforcing the borders isn't far right." But I mean, obviously it's all contextual in terms of how the media would play it up. That Arpaio's a far right. He was the extrajudicial sheriff, and then the 85, the age thing is also an issue. So. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what people are thinking on this one, especially when they already had Kelly Ward. So I guess I'd have to look at more polling. I guess I'd have to see how the primary plays out. But I mean, my first instinct is that it's going to split the vote, and we would end up getting somebody that's more left. So
Right.
I don't know.
In every poll I've seen, Kelly Ward's ahead of
Yeah.
McSally is the thing. So this seems like, and the thing is, if Arpaio was like 55 years old or 65 years old and wasn't a convicted felon, dude, I would be down there tomorrow knocking doors for the guy. He would be like the ideal candidate. Someone who puts illegals in prison camps and it's like, dude, that's what I want to see from our country. But unfortunately, there are just too many of these negatives that are going to, in my opinion, inhibit him from winning a statewide race. So it almost seems like self-indulgent. Yeah. Right. It seems like Arpaio is getting a little bit self-indulgent and putting his interests above the interests of the state. Kelly Ward, not a perfect candidate by any means, but much better than someone like McSally. She's crusading against chemtrails too, which is pretty based. So, and the thing about Kelly Ward is she's run statewide races before. She has name ID. She's very, very popular. She almost beat McCain in the primary this past year, and was within a few points, if I recall. So, yeah, good stuff there from her. Kelly Ward is pretty good on DACA. She says, "I'm glad DAPA was taken away, and I think DACA should be too. It's unconstitutional. President Obama had no authority to create that kind of immigration policy. We need to do this in the constitutional and legal way. If I rob a bank, my kids don't get to keep the money. We have to have equal justice, and we have to apply our laws as they are on the books." So good principles, a good head on our shoulders when it comes to intuition and instinct on immigration questions.
Yeah, no, that seems right. And I'm looking at a poll here from ABC where it's got McSally at 31, Arpaio at 29, and Ward at 25. And it's just so disheartening to see that, because you easily combine the Arpaio and Ward.
This is Mo Brooks. Mo Brooks all over.
We gotta learn our lesson. And even worse is that we get Luther Strange this time around. Either we get Roy Moore or we get Luther Strange. So either way we get cucked. We either get cucked by a moderate or we get somebody that will have a very uphill battle here in the general. So what's going on, big guy? Maybe there'll be more people entering. I don't know, but that's first instinct is that this is probably not ideal.
When was that
This
poll?
is January 9th from ABC.
Oh. Okay, yeah, I hadn't seen that. That's news to me. Because in the past, when it was just between McSally and Ward, I had seen Ward ahead of McSally, but I haven't checked on that in the past month or so. So things probably have shifted. But yeah, we can't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And the thing is, though, however, I will say if this materializes and keeps developing, and we get some more data and see some statewide polling that shows Arpaio as a viable candidate. The thing about Roy Moore is we saw him losing from the start. We saw him down on Doug Jones from the start. before the sex scandal, even he was polling at I think +1 on Doug Jones. So he was barely pulling ahead. And as we saw with the surge in black turnout, like that wouldn't have mattered for him. And I know there are issues with the Alabama race. We don't need to relitigate that, of course. But if polling comes out and shows Arpaio at like 5-10 points ahead of his challenger, fuck it, dude. Joe all the way. I don't care. Right. Great. Because the issue here is electability. It's not a principled objection to Arpaio.
Right. Yeah, right. Exactly. I think everybody could get behind Joe. It's just a matter of, is it worth it, essentially? Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah. Is it with a 51 seat majority, is it worth losing a Senate seat just to run a guy we feel good about?
I agree. We got to look at it pragmatically. And Kelly Ward, I mean, she would be the person to do it. And she obviously had a lead going into it. I think she had momentum as well. And I think a lot of people assumed that Joe Arpaio would back Kelly Ward. That would be a boost for her. So I don't know why he's throwing his hat in. I wonder if Trump had anything to do with that. I wonder I wonder who put him in this race. Which element in the party? Was it the establishment? Probably not. Was it Trump? Was it somebody else? Who knows? But I don't understand the logic here. But yeah, you're right. If Joe could pull ahead in the general, I'd be for him all the way. I'd go down and campaign for him. But just doesn't seem very wise just looking at these three candidates right now. But obviously we'll see how it develops.
Yeah. Yeah, McSally is the Mitch McConnell endorsed candidate here. So, take that for for what you will. Not exactly good news. Speaking of good news, though, the Iranian protests seem to be pretty much over. We were very, very concerned, deeply concerned about these Iran protests, and it's looking like they are kind of winding down here. So, we're moving now to the sanction and rehabilitation stage of this issue. President Trump announced that, citing progress in amending legislation that governs U.S. participation in the nuclear deal, it's from CNBC here, Trump is expected to extend relief from economic sanctions for Iran. However, Trump's renewal of the U.S. concessions will likely be accompanied by new targeted sanctions on Iranian businesses and people. So, fresh off of the narrative that we just love the Iranian people, we care so much about the Iranian people, Dotard Trump is announcing that we are going to further sanction and punish them and make their lives harder. Very, very coherent philosophy there, Nikki Haley and Cheeto Man.
Yeah, that was kind of contradictory, a little bit inconsistent there, which is we want to help the protesters. We want to stand up for the people of Iran. And the line from Netanyahu and the U.S., but specifically from Netanyahu, has been since, I believe, October. The prime minister was tweeting out videos of him saying, we support the Iranian people. It's the Iranian regime we have a problem with. And now, months out, after we express support for the protesters and the people and now they're going to throw on new sanctions. And of course, who's that going to harm? Who's that going to harm? And they say the whole reason for the protests was like brutal economic conditions. And you're making them worse with sanctions. A big part of why the economy's been stagnating. Of course, many will say it's because of the expansionism on the part of Iran and in other parts of the Middle East and, other things going on. But a big part of it is crippling sanctions. So, I mean, I'm for it. I'm for what's going on, obviously, because I don't support the protesters. I think regime change is a bad idea, but I mean, for Trump and Nikki Haley to one day say we support the Iranian people and the next they're going to do that. I mean, obviously, what the play is there. They're going to put on more crippling sanctions to bring Iran back to the negotiating table, and expressing support and sympathy for the protesters was probably more about putting political pressure on Iran than it was about principle, about democracy or free speech or anything like that. But I mean, it just flies in the face of what they say. Yeah, we of course know that it's all politics, but to go from literally 7 days ago saying we love protesters, we love the Iranian people, to 7 days later we're gonna put sanctions back on them, we're gonna hurt their economy and punish them. I mean, it does fly in the face of what they said just last week.
Right. Which makes you realize these people, the neocons, don't give a damn about the people in these countries. They don't care. If they were really wanting to improve the lives of the people in these countries, they would be cutting deals to cut the sanctions on these people so they could improve their lives and have access to more resources and cheaper food and things like that. They don't care about them. They don't care. They are solely interested in regime change. They're solely interested in benefiting certain Middle Eastern partners with national security objectives. So,
yeah,
that's what it's all about.
Yeah. Isn't that hilarious though? How isn't that curious? 2 weeks ago it was regime change in Iran, the biggest protest since 2009. They're going to topple the regime. We have to support them. And then like 3 days later, we heard nothing about it. It all went away. How about all these faggots on our side who, for whatever reason, because the media wasn't covering it, said, no, we support the protesters. We support democracy. We have to topple the theocratic authoritarian government in Tehran. And literally 1 day after the worst of the protests, you never heard about it again. What a fucking astroturfed psyop. What an astroturfed conspiracy that was. I mean, how did people not understand this? Do people just not pay attention that you have 1 day no protests, the next day like quote unquote mass protests that the media is playing up like they're much bigger than they actually are, and then within the week you never hear about it again, right? I mean, so bogus from the start.
Yeah, almost like it's over. Yeah. Almost like it was never a real thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. From NBC News here. Iran protests end, but regime now faces race against time, experts say. Sure they do. Sure. Yeah. Almost. Yeah, exactly. Was not legitimate from the start. Something that is legitimate, though, is a story about Fusion GPS. Big developments coming in this saga that are not being reported on by the media. According to Fox News, an attorney for the co-founder of the opposition research firm Fusion GPS revealed at a closed-door interview this summer with congressional investigators that someone has already been killed as a result of the publication of the anti-Trump dossier. The statement was contained in a 312-page transcript of Fusion GPS co-founder Glenn Simpson's August interview with committee investigators, released unilaterally Tuesday by Senate Judiciary Committee ranking member Dianne Feinstein. The release itself provoked controversy, with an aide to the Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley, Republican of Iowa, calling it confounding for Feinstein to drop the transcript in the middle of an ongoing investigation. Among the many revelations in the document, though, is a claim from Simpson's attorney that someone died because the dossier, which was commissioned by Fusion GPS, was publicly released. And as we talked about last time, we're going to see a lot of the people from Fusion GPS be hauled before the House Intelligence Committee and forced to testify on this dossier, on the FBI collusion. All of this saga wrapped up into one here. I think this story is going to get a lot more interesting as we keep going.
Yeah, on. I agree. The dossier is probably the most underreported story. I mean, this thing has been covered about the person being killed over it because, Dianne Feinstein leaked it because I think it made the dossier look more legitimate than it is. But I mean, this is probably more broadly the most underreported story, that the Russia probe, the Russia investigation is quickly collapsing, because what they're finding is that the entire special counsel that was appointed by Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein was based on the dossier. And the dossier looks like it was a total fabrication, as they're finding out. And so if that's the case, then the Russia probe falls apart. Devin Nunes demanded last week that the special counsel turn over key witnesses and interviews by Wednesday of last week pertaining to the dossier to basically confirm the legitimacy of it as the basis for the FBI investigation. And they didn't do it. They didn't meet the deadline. So now the House Oversight, or rather the House Intelligence Committee, is looking at possible congressional or charges of obstructing Congress against Rosenstein and against Mueller, because they didn't turn over those interviews and witnesses. So you have that happening. You have Paul Manafort, who is countersuing the special counsel for bringing charges against him in 2012. They say it overreaches the scope of the initial investigation, and even the investigation itself overreaches the extent of the power of the Deputy Attorney General for even appointing such a counsel, and then obviously you have this dossier falling apart. So really, this is one to watch. This is a big thing going on here.
Yeah, the rep from Florida. This is the second part of the story. Ron DeSantis tweeted that this is today actually, that he requested House Speaker Paul Ryan to call on House Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunes to declassify any documents related to the dossier on President Trump. So DeSantis wants these documents to be declassified, and so people can see exactly what the committee has found on this dossier so far. And I think this is probably a good move. DeSantis says, the more we learn about the production of the discredited Christopher Steele dossier, the more it appears that a select group of FBI and Justice Department officials utilized what was effectively Hillary Clinton's political opposition research document, DeSantis wrote. This is from Newsmax.com, by the way. DeSantis said in the request that the documents should be declassified to maintain the integrity of our democratic process. Steele, the former British spy, that's Christopher Steele, the former British spy who compiled the dossier of allegations about President Trump's presidential campaign, brought the document to the FBI in July 2016 because he was worried that a political candidate was the victim of blackmail. The founder of opposition research firm Fusion GPS, Glenn Simpson, said in a congressional interview. So we don't know who's telling the truth so far. You know, these guys from Fusion GPS coming out and giving their narrative is highly suspect. So I hope that Paul Ryan acts on this and tells Nunes to declassify these documents. That would be good. Although it may also be good if we just wait and leave them classified until we've finish the investigation, until Nunes and the Intelligence Committee finishes the investigation. Either way, though, I mean, the more pressure we can put on these people to fight back against this Trump-Russia investigation, to fight back against this highly suspect dossier, which was the source, it looks like, of the whole collusion narrative, is good.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And Trump can't do it himself because he's kind of, bad optics and all that. But the more that the Republicans, as he said in his tweet, the more the Republicans, he said in the tweet this morning, Republicans need to take control. Yeah, as soon as they can do that, then I think we'll see this thing come to an end pretty quickly.
Yeah, you're right. And the Russia probe, it's ironic because, the narrative in the media goes that the Trump thing is falling apart, that you have all these different pieces from, the Jeff Sessions meeting with Kislyak to the Flynn call during the transition to Manafort and his connections and everything. But surprisingly, the Russia investigation is what's falling apart. The Russia investigation, the more people are looking into it, the more people are realizing it. It is a total political ploy by the outgoing establishment, by the outgoing swamp. I mean, just look at some of the people that were fired from the special counsel in December from, I think his name was Bruce Orr and Peter Strzok, who, both of them were anti-Trump. They were affiliated with Clinton. He had several other people that gave thousands of dollars to Democrats in different elections. And it's looking to me like I think we talked about either on Wednesday or I talked about on my show sometime last week, that it seems to me like Clinton is under investigation. I think Clinton and Obama and the Democrats know they're fucked. And in response, they created this Russia scandal to cause kind of like a crisis of legitimacy in the government, so that any kind of allegations that Trump could lay at the feet of Clinton could challenge the legitimacy of Trump's government with this Russia thing. But I think people are finding out that they're finding out what's going on, essentially, as the evidence comes out. And I guess it's a race against time here to see who will delegitimize the other first. Obviously, Trump has the advantage because, he's in the White House and he won the election and he's achieved some degree of normalcy or normalization. But I think that's what's at the heart of this. And this will be the big story of 2018. The Inspector General's report will play a part. Obviously, Christopher Steele, the charges have been recommended against him by Graham and Chuck Grassley. And this is all going to come tumbling down this year. I mean, mark my words, this will be the big story. And we'll see. I'm really excited about this. This was really the most white-pilling discovery that I made of 2018 when I started to look at all this, and I kind of got a handle on what was going on here. I mean, everybody should be really encouraged by what's going on behind the scenes here.
Right. Grass is an interesting case because on this, he's great. On this collusion stuff, he's one of the most key players in pressuring the Justice Department and the FBI and the House Committee to get their act together. But then on immigration, he's a total cuck. It's kind of funny. The duality of man. Cool. All right. So let's wrap up the first hour. We'll talk about conspicuously, we didn't talk about immigration the first hour. Of course, that is an issue we can talk a great deal about. So we'll save that for the second hour here. And we'll come back and we'll open up the mailbag, take a look at what you guys have sent us, and we will talk about immigration and everything going on at this monumental meeting with Donald Trump and the representatives and senators that happened yesterday. We'll dig into that. A lot of stuff there. Dig into that here coming up in the next hour right here. Don't go anywhere. Nationalist Review. Welcome back, everybody, to Hour 2 here at Nationalist Review. We got starting the hour with some new content. This is a new segment. I don't know what to call this, but we got the P.O. Box, as I mentioned at the top of the show. P.O. Box 236. Execute Order 236. I don't know. It's tied into Star Wars because we are a Star Wars podcast, of course. We got this in the mailbox. I found this yesterday. Sent on the 6th from one of our buddies out there. He says, greetings and salutations, gentlemen. Over the last several months, I've become a regular listener, eagerly awaiting each new episode. I had heard y'all's names floating around for a while pre-Charlottesville, but really started paying attention after seeing the video of y'all force-feeding red pills to my future waifu, Millie Weaver. Nationalist Review is one of the most high-energy podcasts around, so keep up the good work. Thank you, my guy. Also, any chance of getting Ayla, aka Wife with a Purpose, on the show? She always has good takes. Plus, anyone who has 14 children and is rumored to be planning to have 88 more is all trad and no thought. God bless you both, and don't dox me, bro. Thank you, my guy. He also sent us it's a very thick cardstock paper here. This guy's quality in mind. We appreciate that. High energy, high agency, and a check for some shekels too. So, thank you, my man. Won't dox you, bro, but thank you. You know who you are. Do appreciate it. Yeah, if you want to send letters, checks, any kind of that stuff, P.O. Box 236, Pullman, Washington, 99163 is where you can send that off to. And we will read it on air if you want. We won't dox you, of course, but read it on air. Good stuff. Much more authentic. It has a better feel to it. I like the mailbag we do for like internet submitted questions, but I like the real mailbag too. Very old school, much like they used to have on like old radio stations, where they get fan mail in the box and have the on-air host read it on air. It's very authentic, very trad.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like that. It's old-fashioned. It makes me harkens back to a different time. What's that word? There's a word out there that exists for having nostalgia for something that you never experienced. I forget what the word is though. But it makes me feel that, it's a very old school kind of a feel. You're right. The radio vibe, sending in the mail. There's something about getting hard mail, something about getting a letter in the mail. I miss that. We got to go back.
Anthrax is about
Anthrax and pipe bombs, improvised pipe bombs from Uncle Ted. It's sent to academics. Jeez.
Yeah. Thankfully, we're not academics. Small brain. It's a very small brain show, so we don't have any risk of that. It is nice, the whole mailbag thing. And you think about it, like in the past, to get in touch with a personality you would see on TV, right? If you're watching TV and you really want to talk to Dan Rather, you would have to send an email to this, or send that's my millennial default setting, but you'd have to send mail to the studio. You'd have to send something in print, physical, to the studio to even like have hope of contacting these people. Now you can just like tweet at journalists and call them faggots. We really have come a long ways. It's
true. Yeah, now they can shit on us on Discord while we're playing Minecraft, right? Now they can jump in the Discord while I'm trying to craft and harvest my carrots, and they can say mean things about my production. But whatever.
Yeah, truly for the best. Truly a revolution. Speaking of a revolution, we are about to get one in this country if we do a DACA deal. not a like a forcible revolution, but a political revolution that will be very disadvantageous for all of this country's real Americans. The negotiations are ongoing, and yesterday, as you probably saw, a deal was struck. between Trump and Senate Democrats, but it's not a deal like people are presenting it as. Okay, so it's not a deal on actual policy. It's a deal on how to negotiate a deal. And now, after the meeting happened, Democrats are backtracking and saying we didn't reach a deal at all. So it may have just been a bunch of nothing. But some of the Trump comments in this meeting were very concerning to people, were very alarming to people like Ann Coulter, people like Tucker Carlson, people like me. And I don't know your take on this, Nick, but I would assume people like you too. So here's what actually happened. As previously mentioned, no deal was struck, a deal on how to negotiate a deal perhaps, but we are now reaching a point in the negotiations where the negotiations can be separated off into four big issues, the big four. One is DACA, obviously. Two is chain migration. Three is diversity visas. And four is the border wall. Those are in no particular order. Those are just the four main things being discussed. And it's looking like we may be heading towards a middling vote. And I wrote this in the article that I posted last night on Amherst Media, the Is Trump Cucking on Immigration, which you can check out on the website. And we may be heading towards a middling vote because over half of Dems won't vote for the deal, per Joaquin Castro, as we talked about on, I believe on my show. Yeah, on my show yesterday, my new podcast. And the further right Republicans won't vote for it either, according to Politico. So, and Politico says, meanwhile, there's a restive faction of House Republicans pushing their leadership to take a hardline position in the immigration fight, worried that the moderate Senate will ultimately jam in their chamber with a dreamer deal they can't accept. So the further right Republicans won't vote for it. The further left Democrats won't vote for it. And we're seeing that any kind of deal here may have to be passed by a broad coalition of center right Republicans and center left Democrats. So when you dig into what's going on behind the scenes here, this is not very good. Okay, there's a lot of people trying to exploit this, including our old friend Jeff Flake, to try to manipulate this in a very bad direction. This is, again, from Politico. For example, the senators have debated whether to effectively dump the visa lottery, which doles out 50,000 green cards annually to people from countries with traditionally low rates of immigration. What a dumb idea. By allocating those visas to immigrants who have benefited from temporary protected programs that the Trump administration is terminating. Separately, there appears to be a more notable struggle over chain migration, with senators disagreeing on whether restrictions on sponsoring relatives should apply just to dreamers or to the larger immigrant population. So while we may get a quote unquote end to chain migration, some Republicans are looking to apply that just to dreamers and letting all of the other legal immigrants bring in their relatives. Right. And that would not be good because none of these terrorists we've seen who've come in have been dreamer importees. They've been just chain migrants.
Yeah.
So,
well,
that's not good.
Well, I'm, of course, always a little white-pilled. I'm a little bit more white-pilled on this than you. I think you got to really pay attention to what was said during the meeting yesterday because it was very peculiar. You know, a lot of people who read, or heard the sound bites from the media and the headlines and they watched the 2-minute clips on Twitter, they got a very different picture than if you watched the whole thing and you watched it a couple of times, you really paid attention to what was being said. Because if you listened really hard, I mean, something was definitely off there. I mean, number one, here's probably the biggest thing is that Trump says that we have to have security and DACA. He says any deal would have to have DACA and security. And of course, what does security mean? On Friday, the White House said that security means an $18 billion, 1,000-mile wall. It means an additional $15 billion for border security. It means defunding sanctuary cities. It means 10,000 additional ICE agents and a number of other things. In this meeting, it was a 700-mile fence and not continuous and so on. And then you have Chuck Schumer who says, so Trump says we have to have security and DACA, but it's unclear what he means by security. Is it the 700-mile discontinuous fence? Is it the 900-mile continuous wall? We don't know. Chuck Schumer says that it can't have a wall. Whatever it is, it cannot have a wall. Trump says that they want to do it in 2 phases. They want to do it first, DACA and the other things, which is chain migration, visa lottery, and border security, and then do overhaul in the second phase.
That's retarded. That is completely.
And Mark Meadows says that the 2 phase would be a non-starter. And so when you hear it in that
Yeah.
context, that all of these constraints that are set forth, all of these conditional statements set forth by the various parties required to make this happening, that's the context for Trump saying, I'll sign anything that's put in front of me. Because I heard that and I was like, what? When I heard Trump say, I'm not really gonna be for this, or I don't want this. I'm gonna sign whatever you give me. At first, I had the same reaction. I was like, "What is going on?" But then I heard what Trump's demands were for this, what Schumer's demands, Meadows, and some of the other Republican leadership, and I said, "Well, no bill will get to his desk. No bill will arrive at his desk. Schumer won't
Right.
concede on the wall, and I don't think Trump will concede on what he needs in exchange for DACA. And so I think what will happen is January 19th rolls around, no bill is passed, government shuts down, and the Democrats own it. All these sound clips, or these sound bites rather, come out on January 19th about Trump saying, I'll sign anything. I'm willing to compromise. I'll do a 700-mile fence and not even a wall, just reasonable border security. Well, a clean bill is DACA and security. All these things will come out. The rhetoric has been very poignant, very deliberate for what, in my opinion, is an eventual breakdown in negotiations and a government shutdown. That's my take.
I think that's what he's betting on too. I think that is really the only. If you want to keep your sanity and resist the urge to torch your MAGA cap, that is the only way you can be looking at this, right? Because this is not ideal. Obviously, this is not like he's not out there swinging. He's not out there saying we need the 3,000-mile wall. We need this. He's not doing that. He is saying that he will cave, right? He's saying he'll give them whatever they want. He'll give the very milquetoast GOP center-left Senate whatever they want, and that is not good, because if you give them what they want, there are enough votes in the Senate to get DACA passed clean, right? The Senate would pass DACA straight up and down with 49 Democrats, Flake, and McCain. So not good. The House wouldn't pass it most likely, and that would be the hang up there. But I think to look at this and stay sane and still have some hope left, you have to be the only narrative that makes sense is that Trump is hedging his bets, and he's not hedging his bets, but he's betting on the fact that there will be no deal. He's betting on the fact that the Senate GOP, House GOP, Senate Democrats, and House Democrats will not be able to come together and reach a solution through reconciliation and all of that process. They will not be able to put a deal on his desk at all, and they have until March to do it, because they'll do a continuing resolution. Like, the Democrats are not going to shut down the government for DACA. I think if they did, that would be a massive gift to Trump and a massive gift for Republicans. And I encourage them to do so. I would love to see the Democrats shut down the government for DACA. And at that point, the whole conversation changes. But I don't think they will. I think that they will continue to do these continuing resolutions, keep doing the budget. And the clock is going to run out on this. This is going to go like healthcare went the first time. Okay, where they're going to put something up, it won't pass. Put another thing up, it won't pass. People will be having their office phone lines flooded, right? I know somebody who was recently in Tillis, I won't say who was recently in Tom Tillis's office, the senator from North Carolina, and doing something unrelated, and the phones were ringing off the hook, and the two staffers there spent the whole time on the phone. And when they finally got a break, this person asked, "What are these people calling about?" And the friend and the staffer said, "Oh, it's nothing. It's just those alt-right Nazis calling, bitching at us about DACA." Like, that was the actual thing the staffer said. So, dude, these representatives are going to get tired of having their phone lines lit up, having their constituents consistently calling and chewing them a new one for being an amnesty cuck, and they'll just lose the political will to force this through. I really think that's what's going to happen here. And I really hope that's what happens here. And so they'll try this a few times. It won't happen. Nothing will come of it. And then Trump is ready to go on infrastructure is the narrative we're seeing now. He's ready to go on the infrastructure package, something very bipartisan. And that is another win for Trump before the midterms, which benefits him bigly going in, and benefits, again, like we mentioned earlier, GOP chances going into the midterms. So I cannot see a situation, barring massive cuckery, where a deal comes to Trump's desk and he signs it. Because if he does, everyone around him should be telling him that if he signs a DACA deal that grants amnesty to these people, I would be willing to say at all, any sort of DACA deal, and I know Nealon reiterated this on your show a couple of days ago, he's a one-term president, right? Donald Trump is a one-term president if he gives amnesty to these people. And no ifs, ands, or buts, because he's going to lose Ann Coulter, he's going to lose Steve King, he's going to lose me, he's going to lose all of these people out here who are serious about immigration policy. He's going to lose Paul Nealon. He's going to lose the people very popular with his base who are fed up and sick of illegal immigration and people breaking our law and getting special preferential treatment when they come here. He loses the base. He loses 2020.
I don't know. I disagree. I only say that because if he gets a deal, the deal would be that he gets the wall and he gets an end to chain migration and an end to the visa lottery system and those other concessions. And I believe that would be the deal he would sign. I think under those conditions, he would sign. I don't think that deal is likely. I don't think it's plausible. I don't think the Democrats would give him all of that. But hypothetically, let's entertain the 1 in 100 scenarios. Out of 100 times this situation plays out, maybe one time Donald Trump gets that deal where he gets those 3 preconditions to give up DACA. If you look at the numbers of it, and this is according to Breitbart, if you eliminate chain migration, that is eliminating 500,000 legal immigrants coming here every year. So that would cancel out the market effect of keeping the DACA kids after 16 months. So you think if immigration is 1 million a year, and actually it was 1.5 million last year, but if immigration is 1 million a year as a sample, and we did the math, I think it was last week, over 10 years, that's 5 million immigrants that you're not taking in compared to 800,000 DACA recipients. And that's not including the visa lottery system, which would eliminate an additional 75,000 immigrants per year, not including the wall, which would go up and keep illegals out, defunding the sanctuary cities, which would help spread or accelerate rather the process of illegals going out of the country. And I agree with you that, amnesty for illegals would make Trump a one-term president. But losing, or rather not getting the wall, would also make him a one-term president. So you have to think about it not in terms of like if he gave these 800,000 people amnesty, it would be suicidal. Well, not getting the wall would also be suicidal. And I don't really see a situation outside of this type of negotiation, outside of you have to give a little bit or he gets the wall. I mean, if he could do it without Congress, I would say you're right. But it's looking like, and like we talked about earlier, if he loses the House in 2018, the wall's not happening. I mean, it just will not happen. The 2 years will go by and we won't get a wall. So it's really between now and November where we are assured that we can break the Democrats' balls, or break their backs rather, and get the wall. So I would say that if the deal happens, and I think it's very unlikely, but if they get the deal that we want, it would be a good thing, I think, ultimately. I know people are not wild about hearing about that, but I mean, if we're serious about it, we have to be pragmatic about it. If we're pragmatic, we see that you don't have this ideal to compare it to. It's very real scenarios. It's not, do you want everything you want and nothing you don't? It's, do you want some things you want and that counterbalances what you have to give up, or do you want nothing that you want and a lot of things that you don't like? I mean, that's really the comparison.
Well, my other concern is that we won't get the wall anyways. And I think there's a very real argument you can make that because of the judicial supremacy we see in this country at this point, the wall would just be held up for the 2 years anyways. And so you would need to negotiate this in a way, and it would need to go through Congress in a way where the federal government has the authority to circumvent the courts, and where the eminent domain necessary to take these parcels of land is absolutely guaranteed by the Congress. Because that is, of course, a major concern. The fact that in every one of these states, right, the wall is going to go through California, New Mexico, Arizona, and Texas. And dude, I can just imagine the U.S. district courts in California would have a field day with every single little property owner down there on the border. Filing an injunction against the federal government, or the courts filing injunctions against the federal government, prohibiting the construction of this thing. And it's going to be, Trump says it's going to be a 1 year process. It will not. It's going to be a long-term process to get this thing built. And I don't know if we're willing to concede amnesty for these, what is actually like 800,000 to 1.2 million, not the 700 or 600,000 they say. I don't know if it's willing to concede amnesty to them to start this process that is probably like not likely going to get finished anyways, unless we can get it specifically enumerated in this legislation that the feds have the authority to tell the courts to fuck off or something. It would need to be a very good bill of goods for Trump to sign off on. But the other problem is, I think talking about this ideal, this quote unquote ideal deal anyways, is probably a waste of time because, like you mentioned, it's not likely to happen. Right, that deal is not likely to happen. I think a middle of the road deal passed by center right Republicans or center left Republicans and center left Democrats is a lot more likely. Because all they need to do is break off 26 Republicans and 25 Democrats, and they've got a majority, and in the Senate, and then break off just 30 Republican legislators in the House. Or maybe 50 total when you include the leftists, Democrats who won't vote for a deal. So it's not going to be a massive undertaking to flip just a couple of legislators to the Democrat side or to the centrist side on this to get a deal passed. And that centrist deal is unlikely to contain the 3 wins for Republicans. It's likely to include changes to the numbers, right? Oh, we'll cut chain migration from 500,000 to 100,000, or we'll do this and that. In exchange for full DACA amnesty. Again, I think we're kind of putting the cart before the horse to talk about these deals anyways, because we need to actually see a deal before us before we can really know what it's gonna look like. But remaining vigilant is a good idea. There are some good bills though. The bills in front of us that we do have are pretty good. Senator Bob Goodlatte from Virginia, of course, he proposed a immigration bill that would call for, this is from The Hill, the bill would call for more aggressive enforcement measures and would address thousands of young immigrants whose fate has been in limbo for months. The standalone legislation, which Goodlatte plans to unveil Wednesday, is backed by Speaker Paul Ryan's leadership team, apparently. It has attracted support from the moderate and conservative wings of the 239-member House Republican Conference, including centrist Martha McSally and Freedom Caucus member Raul Labrador from out here in Idaho. In an interview, Freedom Caucus Chairman Mark Meadows says Tuesday he's inclined to back the Goodlatte bill based on what he's heard so far. Supporters of Goodlatte's bill argue that it could garner 218 Republican votes in the Senate, which could help them avoid getting jammed with an unpopular immigration deal votes in the House, which could help them avoid getting jammed with an unpopular immigration deal from the Senate. Now, I'll need to pull up the particulars of this bill, but it's good to see that people are trying to push this further right.
Yeah, well, I just saw on Twitter from CBS News. Sorry, I tried to go a little bit off topic. It's the same thing. But Trump just said in a press conference that he would not sign an immigration deal that didn't include the wall. So that's very white pilling, right? I think that lends a lot of credence to the idea that he's holding out here.
Sure, but how do you define a wall?
Well, I think the wall is what the White House demands were.
Is it?
I mean, again, you have to.
Is it 700 miles
that's
of
the
fence
language,
repair?
though. Is fence versus wall. And then on Friday, again, go back to the White House statement on Friday, which was, this is what the wall will look like. Again, maybe you believe that the White House would put out the most detailed report or blueprint on what the wall would look like to date and then just completely disregard that within the week. But I believe that what Trump said in the press conference was the fake out, not the White House statement on Friday. I think it makes a lot more sense contextually that Tuesday, the statement yesterday on Tuesday was the fake out. The fence was the fake out that's not happening. The wall is on Friday. But again, I mean, we'll see. I am 100% confident, given everything that's happened yesterday and today, and given that statement, that I will be vindicated completely. I know, we talked about Iran. We talked about DACA in September. We talked about Syria. And, I always say I'm confident in the prediction, and I think this will come to fruition. This is very encouraging because this is textbook, or not textbook, but this is exactly what happened in September. I mean, remember the Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi deal, where I think it was September 12th. It comes out of Chuck Schumer's office from one of his spokespersons that said Donald Trump has agreed on a DACA fix with no border wall. And everybody said, yo, amnesty's on. We're off the Trump train. We're burning our fucking hats. We're going crazy. And then like literally the next day, no, that didn't happen. And then, obviously nothing ever came of that. It obviously talks broke down even worse and only got rescued within the past couple of weeks. I think the same thing's going to happen here. It's going to happen. 1,000 DACA people are being deported every day that the Democrats wait. Obviously, until March 5th, when they all lose their legal protection, or not deportations, they're losing their legal protection. And then on January 19th, government shuts down. Democrats own it. It's four-dimensional chess change, but it's also not. It's four-dimensional in the sense that it's strategic, but it's not that complicated. It's a pretty standard real estate negotiating tactic. We'll see. Time will tell.
We'll see.
Time will tell.
Politicians are not trustworthy, Trump included. So, by definition,
he's not.
I have to disagree there. But, well, it depends. Is he telling the truth in the press conference, or was he telling the truth on the campaign trail? Look, the fact that he has pivoted from they all have to go back just a year ago now to any deal has to be a bill of love, and he's aping Jeb Bush's comments on this. Is obviously
I think that was a
concerning.
I think that was his because that's so ridiculous. That is so jumping the shark that he would call it a bill of love. I think it's almost like a signal. It's almost signaling to his base because it's so ridiculous, right? Bill of love. I mean, that's so out of character. It has to be. It has to be. I would stake my life on that.
It depends. I mean, do you have faith in Trump, or do you have faith in the history of what we can observe from politicians getting elected and cutting amnesty deals? I mean,
the God Emperor. I have to turn into an Art of the Donald fag again. It always happens.
Reagan amnesty,
we'll see.
Bush amnesty, HW amnesty.
I told you. I'm so confident in this prediction. I would let's make a bet. What's the bet? What's the bet if I'm wrong?
Trump meeting with dreamers in his office, saying we need to.
What's the bet if I'm wrong?
People.
Let's make it interesting. Let's gamble a little bit. What's the bet? Milky's here. Whoever is wrong, we have to recite the Milky's copy pasta live on the air.
Yeah, no, I don't oppose. I don't oppose that. What is the sure? What is the conditions of the deal, though? What are the rules here?
Yeah, that's true. Well, that's true.
Because I don't think you're essentially wrong about the fact that no deal is going to happen. But I think that if a deal is put before Trump that is not the 1-for-3 trade-off, like you're describing as the ideal deal, I think he would sign that anyways.
You would,
right? I think he would sign something that builds $700.
Well, okay. Well, if he signs a bill that gives amnesty, but it doesn't build the wall, then yeah, we'll make that bet. Milky's copy pasta.
The thing is, though, even then, like, we're not going to know if the wall's going to get built until 8 years.
But do we? I mean, how could we know if the wall?
It's going to be thousands and thousands of immigration of eminent domain challenges along the border. This is the whole nature of immigration issues. They're very, very complicated, and they involve not only just changing the legislation. They have implications in every other sector. And look, I really do want the wall to get built, but I am again pretty concerned about the eminent domain issues, because dude, we're seeing the courts come out and saying they're placing injunctions and saying that Trump can't get rid of DACA because it's unconstitutional to get rid of DACA. It's like, dude, just honk that clown nose a little bit harder, bro.
That's the if you're referring to what happened with the courts the other day. I mean, that happens every time. That slows down the process. It doesn't impede the process completely. I mean, even the travel ban got clearance from the Supreme Court, and eventually the other one got into place. So, I mean, look, if you're not confident, if you think it's going to happen, I don't know. It seems like you're unwilling to wager. Here I am. I'm giving you a lot because I'm saying that there could be a deal, and I'd be okay with the deal anyway. So it's not even like a yes or no. Like, I believe in Trump's Trump card, which is that he has multiple approaches going, and I could go and refer to the Trump cards from the art of the deal and everything of the nature of how he operates in terms of, I think he would be very well okay with the deal, but also with not making a deal. I think that's how he creates a double bind, is that he takes care of the downside, upside takes care of itself, though the worst option is a good option. And so I'm not even saying that I don't believe a deal will happen. I think it's unlikely, but I think a deal could happen, and I think I would be for it given the conditions he sets out for it. But if he puts forth a bill and it doesn't include wall, or he signs a bill rather, and it's got DACA protection, but it doesn't have the wall that we want, it's 700 miles of fence or whatever, then the copy pasta. Is that a deal or no? Because you can't say, oh, well, enforcement might go awry, or, oh, they might challenge the land seizures, and, logistically it might be difficult in the deal. Because that would be, I mean, you understand, you can't, it's so much different than the Simpson-Mazzoli Act, where it was like, we'll allocate more for border security. I mean, they fucking, that's Social Security in law, in theory, is supposed to be, you put money into a trust fund and you get that same money when you go out. But I mean, we all know that discretionary funds don't really work that way in the government. But if you have a good enforcer in the White House, the money's going to go where it needs to. But
so here's my concern here. And this is something we saw actually enumerated from right-wing individuals and people who wanted the border wall early in Trump's term. The argument was that the language of the Bush Immigration Act, I'm forgetting which one it was, passed by George W, or signed by W, already authorizes a wall. All right, they were saying that because of the way the bill was written, Trump could instruct I think it must be DHS or Interior or whoever is in charge of that to build a wall in the sections that were enumerated, that were listed as having border security provisions. And, that was the narrative. Now, my concern is that language and that idea is going to be adopted by the left, and they're going to say, okay, well, you can interpret that as a border wall, sure, and do whatever you want down there, and use the existing language to build a border wall, and it'll be presented as a border wall by the media. But of course, we know that it won't be. It'll just be fence repairs when it actually comes to fruition. I think any bill that's passed has to include explicitly construction of a border wall as a very explicit, written down. That language has to be used. A border wall, and the wall has to be described in the legislation, right? And it has to be name of the manufacturer, specifications, dimensions, all of that stuff. So I don't know. Let's wait and see how this turns out. But I hope that you are right, that there is no deal. And then I hope that you are wrong, that Trump is going to sign a deal, both at the same time.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think we'll have to see how this plays out. I'm confident that it'll play out the way that I have predicted, the way that the Dead Sea Scrolls have prophesized. I think this is how it's going to go down. And but obviously we'll see. I'm just fascinated by the game that's being played. I wish people would take more of like an observational approach to it, because it's very easy to get sucked into this black pill mentality of like, I have to throw myself out of the Trump tree. I'm out. I'm done. I'm finished. And I understand, people care about immigration. People care about their country. That's why it leads to passions, and that's understandable. But I think Trump has earned the benefit of the doubt at this point. The same people that said 100,000 troops in Syria on June 1st, the same people that said DACA is going to be put into law in September, the same people who said regime change in Iran is inevitable because of these protests. And every time it's the same song and dance. It's the same fucking thing. And I get it. I get why people are concerned, but you just have to look at the facts. I mean, yeah, it's a little bit like, he's negging us to death, his base. He's really fucking with us. But if you just look at all the pieces going on, I think you really get a more, like you said, you keep your sanity a little bit more. You start to understand the game that's being played, and you start not to be a pawn in the game so much as an instrument of outrage, but a little bit more of I don't know. You get to see it from from ahead. You get to see it from a more omniscient perspective. I don't even mean that in like a pretentious way, but I mean, you get to see the game playing out sort of disassociated from it. And I think that's the best way to get a pretty clear cut view of what's going on. Because, it's very easy to throw in. I'm the first one to say that amnesty is death. Amnesty will not lead to Republican voters. Amnesty will lead to losing Texas. Amnesty will lead to losing your guns, losing your education, losing your free speech, losing everything. Your kids are beaten up in their schools, are discriminated against, they're a minority, so on and so. I mean, I get all of that. I really do. But when you look at what's going on, it just isn't what it seems. It's politics. You have to have that kind of a mind for it. So, but yeah, I mean, we'll see. I think you understand what's going on here. I think a lot of people understand it. Obviously there's a reasonable room for doubt because there is a huge gravity to what's going on. But I think the facts speak for themselves.
Yeah, and the only thing that'll answer the question is the results, of course. That's what we have to watch out for is what actually comes out of this. And we can be observing and pushing in the right direction. But again, no one's going to know. It's interesting to note, though, that even pundits who are on the left are observing that a DACA compromise would be political suicide for Donald Trump. This is from CNBC this morning. Trump DACA compromise would risk GOP chances in 2018 and beyond. President Trump sounded like he was willing to agree to any deal on immigration at Tuesday's White House meeting with members of Congress. If he makes a deal on DACA protections without getting funding for more border security and the wall, he won't survive politically. Trump needs to stand firm on that added border funding, even if it means shutting down the government. President Trump is creeping dangerously close to his no new taxes moment. That is, he can now renege on a signature pledge in the same way that President George H.W. Bush did when he raised taxes despite his read my lips promise. This all became clear during Trump's fully televised immigration and budget meeting at the White House between President Trump and a large bipartisan congressional crowd. He said, quote, "I will say when this group comes back, hopefully with an agreement, this group and the others from the Senate, from the House, comes back with an agreement, I'm signing it." That didn't sound like a man who won't accept any immigration deals without the wall. It sounded like a politician who's ready to go along to get along. Those are the kind of politicians who lose their base and lose elections. Conservatives and anti-illegal immigration leaders exploded. People like Ann Coulter laid into the president. Breitbart's now former online news site, Bannon's now former online news site, Breitbart News, featured several articles and interviews predicting a Trump surrender on immigration. Leading conservative radio host Mark Levin urged President Trump to come back from that statement. Fox News anchor Tucker Carlson used his program to ask, what was the point of running for president? And in my opinion, they're all right? These people and myself, we are all right on this, assuming this isn't a negotiation tactic. If it is a tactic, then it may be smart. But if it is genuine, and this is what this all comes down to. If this is genuine, we're fucked. If it's negotiation, I think we're doing all right.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But you need to whip the frenzy up. That's the thing. You need to get people upset.
I understand that. I just, here's my problem is every time I'm right about this and everyone else is wrong, it's always, oh, well, it was a good thing that we freaked out because as if people were playing the part, as if people like, oh, I knew I was just playing along. I knew what was going on, but we had to do that. I mean, don't you understand? We had to. And here's why well, you
do. I mean,
here's why
you do that. Though. Like, in order to get people to go, I mean, you don't have to get psychologically freaked out about it, but I think it is important to engage in political action when these things are up for debate, because as we know, politicians will try to pull one over on people when they think they're not paying attention.
It's because, for example, for people like us, people who follow us will be far more affected by what we tweet than Donald Trump. If I go out there, if someone like you or I goes out there and we tweet, it's the end of the world, sky is falling, Donald Trump cucked, we're alone, we have nothing, we have nobody in the White House, we have nobody in the party, country's fucked, forget about it. That's not going to affect Donald Trump at all. Donald Trump is not going to see that tweet. Donald Trump is not going to read that tweet. It's not going to affect what happens in his calculations in the White House. Who will read that tweet is our followers, is people in the movement who, if they are fed a steady stream of black pills since inauguration, that destroys morale, that kills morale. That is actually like an intelligence tactic, an intelligence like military intelligence tactic, which is to demoralize your people by removing hope from the equation. And believe me, I'm not saying don't have cynicism. I mean, all the straw mans come out whenever I say people are wrong about something. They say, oh, well, are you saying it's never acceptable to criticize the president? Of course not. But you have to criticize him when there is something worth criticizing. And again, Ann Coulter, Sean Hannity, I think it's a good thing that they're blackpilling. I think it's a good thing because, they'll get the Fox News crowd up in a tiffy and, they'll all get mad at everything and that's good. But for people like us, I think it's our job to tell the truth. I mean, there are propagandists, which I think is what, people like Ann Coulter and Sean Hannity are. And I don't say that in like a disparaging way. There are your propagandists, and then there are the people that are going to go out there and tell you what's actually going on. You need both. And so I have to go out there and correct the record because I'm trying to tell the truth and give people a little hope about what's going on. And the propagandists will be out there, I think, getting people fired up and getting them to go attack people. And, if you want to be a part of the game on this low level and, you want to get all upset and angry and, get empowered.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Look, I get
you know
it.
what I mean? Or are you about to deliver a blow here?
Well, but that's at the same time that's essentially saying that don't be concerned about these things. Just place your faith in the politicians. Place your faith in Donald Trump.
Did I say?
Well, I mean, literally, it's because you're saying place your faith in Donald Trump to do the right thing here, and it's very important, as we know, to respond to our politicians with how we feel about these issues. It's very important to be calling the switchboards. It's very important to be going out there and letting your politicians know that we will throw you out of office by the scruff of your neck.
It's got nothing to do with
these
faith.
Type of deals. And so
you say it's about faith? No, not at all. I don't have faith that Donald Trump will do anything. I look at what his record is. I read his book. I look at his methods, his tactics. I look at similar incidents that have happened throughout his presidency. I look at patterns. Does anybody have faith in some of the statistical patterns they look at, or do they think about probability? Do they think about plausibility? So I think it is highly likely that this is the scenario. I don't have faith. I think there is qualitative evidence to support really with a high degree of certainty that this is what's happening. It's got nothing to do with faith. I don't know Donald Trump personally, so it's
sure. But look, I mean, we've seen the end result of believing the politicians, believing the process, believing what's going on, and believing them based on past behavior, and inevitably this will end in some form of cucking. And if pressure is not applied, there needs to be an exercise of real power, of hard power over political actors, over political entities, to get them to conform, to force their actions to conform to the will of their base. And we need to be encouraging people to do that. We can no longer be sitting on the sidelines and accepting things for how they are. We need to be getting people involved in the political process. And the unfortunate reality is that when you tell people that things are going to be okay and that things are going to materialize, you remove the impetus on those people to then go out and fight for those things.
Nobody's saying not to get people involved in the political. I'm not saying don't get involved in the political process. If it's worth getting involved, get involved. But it doesn't help to sap people's morale like this. And I understand the impulse. I understand why people do this. I mean, they've been burned by politicians before, and they've been, obviously disappointed and let down by everybody for 30 years. I get that. But if you're looking at the evidence, if you're looking at what's happening, there's a case to be made here that this is going on. If it was Syria, I would agree with you. First time that happened. If it was DACA the first time, maybe I would agree with you. If it was Iran, I would say no. If it's this, I would say absolutely no. We've seen time and time again that this is the strategy. If it were legitimate, if the signs pointed in that direction, I would be right there with you, rallying the troops, getting people on the switchboards and all the rest. But it's incorrect. You want to tell lies to people. You want to tell people like this isn't don't look at the evidence, don't look at what's happening. I mean, that's what you're saying. You're saying
I'm a liar.
You're saying it's good that people are wrong, because even if they're wrong, it's a healthy thing that they get really black-pilled about their children's future and politics and everything else. That's what you're saying. You're saying even if it's a deal, well, it was a good thing that we fire everybody up. I disagree. That's what she said.
Yes, people need to be engaged.
I agree.
People need to be engaged.
I agree.
And
We
people
have to
need
tell
to
them
be
the truth.
people. Well, you're talking about two sides of your freaking mouth here, my guy. You know, you're saying on the one hand that it's good to get people involved and good to get people excited about the issues, but at the same time, it's bad to get people all fired up.
I'm saying it's good to get people involved. I'm saying it's good to get people involved. It is not good to lie to people. I mean, that's all the difference in the world. It's not good to tell people that something is happening when it's not. Well, I mean, you have to look, because you're trying to say that regardless of what happens, regardless of the evidence, regardless of all of this shit that's looking at you right in the face. I mean, just like an obvious record of failure and bad predictions on the part of black pillars. And you're saying, well, that doesn't really matter. All that matters is we're getting people fired up and getting in there. Well, you can't fuck with people like that. You can't fuck with people like that. You make it out like even if, because every time I tweet about this stuff, I get people saying, yeah, well, even though we were wrong, it was noble that we got really black-pilled. It was really a good thing that everybody got all that.
You keep using this phrase black-pilled. No, I'm not saying to be pessimistic. I'm not saying to go build your bunker and just give up on the world and prepare for death. I mean, that's not what I'm saying. Right. What I'm saying is that if we don't exercise political force and exercise real power over the people we elect to make these decisions for us, we will get fucked, because that's what politicians do.
It is the black pill, because it's always interpreting everything in the worst possible way.
Sorry, that's reality. That politicians will act in their own self-interest and in the interest of their donors instead of the interest of people.
I agree. And Donald Trump, you think Donald Trump is acting in his interest by giving amnesty in exchange for nothing? Tell me what part of his interest would that satisfy? Why would he go against 35 years of public statements, 35 years of his professed ideology? Go against his campaign promises, go down in history as the liberals hating him and the conservatives hating him. What about giving amnesty for nothing is in his self-interest? It goes back to the point. Nobody's thinking about this. Where's the interest? Tell me, why would that be a good thing for Donald Trump?
Short-term political victory and benefit.
Short-term political victory. How would that be a short-term political victory? We just got done talking about how Ann Coulter,
because he gets to,
for whom he would be getting killed by his base.
He gets to appease the people. He gets to appease the people who want the deal on DACA, which polls indicate are about 50% of America. And he gets to appease the people who want the border wall.
I said.
You can make a very real argument that this is a good political calculation.
I said, why would he have interest in giving amnesty without the wall, without everything else?
The people who are in his ear and advising him are telling him that this is going to be a political victory.
So his interest is
showing
people are telling him. So that doesn't make any sense.
He's being told by people that this is very politically popular, and there is manipulated polling out there where they can manipulate the poll in a right way to say, 80% of Americans support
all he talks about is how he watches Fox News. He's a big fan of Ann Coulter. Everybody that he follows, everybody that he watches on television, everybody that he is friends with in politics is telling him the same thing, which is that amnesty is bad, amnesty is suicidal. I mean, these are his own beliefs. You're talking about a complete 180-degree turn on what he's been saying for 35 years, on what he campaigned for 2 years, and got dragged through the mud and sacrificed his great life for. And you're saying, well, he'll turn on a dime because his advisors are telling him it's politically popular. It'll be a short-term political victory. You think he'd build $10 billion by thinking about short-term victories? I mean, it boggles the mind that this is the kind of reasoning that we're going to blackpill everybody because of.
Look, I know you're relatively new to politics. I
was right about everything in 2017. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just a faster learner. Who knows? No, I was.
Yeah,
I was. How's the Syrian invasion going? How is the DACA bill in September going? How's the regime change in Iran going? I know you get a big dopamine rush every time you get to say, "Oh, make America great again," more like George Bush III. But I was right about everything in 2017. So I like that you pull the age card. That's very Will Chamberlain of you.
No, all I'm saying is that we have past record of presidents, and we can build Donald Trump up to be this God King figure, but unfortunately, we know that man is fallible, right? We know that presidents will make a lot of promises. We know that politicians will make a lot of promises and then not deliver on them because the winds shift and they are told things by their advisors that cause them to go in different directions. Right? We saw this with HW. We saw this with W. We've seen this with every Republican president. We saw this with Reagan, who promised no amnesty, gets elected, and then, oh, what do you know? There's amnesty. Reagan, by the way, very analogous to President Trump in that he came out of the private sector. He came from a place of celebrity. He came from a place of immense personal success, gave up a great life, sacrificed a lot of material goods and a very comfortable life to get into politics and improve things. And we saw him flip and we saw him do amnesty. So to say that just because
any of those examples are comparable,
yes,
you think Reagan being an actor and then being the governor and then running for the nomination and then losing and then becoming president is comparable to Donald Trump, who's a billionaire real estate developer and ran and won the first. It's just, and again, nobody disagrees with you. You keep pulling out man is fallible. Yes. Politicians tend to lie. Yes. Power tends to corrupt. That's Lord Acton. Yes, of course.
And for those reasons, we need to keep putting pressure on our elected leaders, on our president, to do what we want, and let them know that if they do not,
agree. And I've said, if he goes, and I said, if he goes for DACA amnesty and we don't get these concessions, I'll be off the Trump train. But I don't think that's going to happen. I've said repeatedly, and I've expressed that we would be off. There will be this, pressure that exists from right-wing Twitter. If this happens, it will not happen. It will, and I am so confident because the same thing you're saying. Oh, well, past presidents have lied before. Well, this president in the past has done the exact same thing he's doing now, and you're saying, well, that doesn't really matter. That doesn't really matter because his advisors, it doesn't really matter who, but, advisors are telling him it would be a short-term political victory. Why? Because they're telling him that. I mean, you cannot create a more convincing theory that conforms to the evidence than my theory. That's what it comes down to. I mean, that's what it came down to every single time. You have to ask yourself, why would he do what you think he's going to do? And if you can't come up with that answer, then you can't go around and blackpill everybody about it.
Again, all of that's fine and good, but I still don't see a problem with encouraging people to exercise their opinion and exercise their power over their politicians. I mean, look, we can like Trump. Trump can be great. Trump can be awesome. Trump can be a great negotiator and all of this. But to place that much faith in him, in any politician, on this issue is a mistake.
Not faith.
It is a mistake.
It would be faith. It would be faith.
Sure, because there's no evidence that he's going to do this, right? You're having faith in his past track record of behavior, and you're having faith that track record is indicative of his mindset.
Yeah, I have faith in qualitative evidence. I have faith in the historical record in the same way that you have faith in the historical record that politicians lie. I mean, we look at patterns. Do you have faith in patterns, James?
The problem is, yeah, I do, but the problem is that Trump doesn't have any record as president.
The same thing happened maybe you would have been right in September, but on September 12th, the exact same thing happened. The exact play-by-play. Oh, absolutely. Not out of Chuck Schumer's office.
There was no legislation back in September.
Oh, really?
No, those were preliminary discussions between Chuck Schumer.
There's legislation now?
Pelosi.
Really? Where's the bill?
The Goodlatte bill. Yes, the Goodlatte bill.
Really? When did that come out?
Bob Goodlatte in Virginia. This morning. It came. The news.
Oh, really?
News broke last
I don't
night,
believe that's the bill they were talking about in the meeting yesterday. It's a finished bill. Show me the finished bill. What's in the bill, James? Show me the bill.
Right there, Virginia.
All right, let's look it up. I think you're lying. I can't. Oh, I think you're being disingenuous.
But I'm lying. It's in the show prep.
Let's take.
Look it up. Bob Goodlatte, Virginia proposed a bill this morning.
The bill.
And the legislative process.
Yes.
The legislative process is underway this time. There was no legislative process underway last time. There were no bipartisan negotiations last time. There were negotiations between Donald Trump and the senators last time, but there was no bipartisan legislative negotiation last time.
It just goes to show
fundamentally different.
how terrible your theory is that you have to be disingenuous to prop it up. This is not the bill. This is a bill that has been proposed in the same way that articles of impeachment have been drafted before. Articles of impeachment have been drafted. Is that underway? There's no legislation that is sponsored by the parties that Trump has put together. There's no deal that has been written yet.
No, but
You're
there's 200,
talking
there's
about
218 House reps
legislation.
backing
You're
this bill.
talking
You
about
would vote for this bill?
legislation. No, this is
Yeah.
not the deal that was discussed yesterday. This is highly disingenuous of you.
I know, and I never claimed
again,
it was. No, I never claimed it was. What I'm saying is that the legislative process is underway this time, and actual negotiations are underway this time. What you're talking about last time were preliminary meetings,
but the
when there was no legislative will to even
is the
begin
same.
broaching
The principle is the same. The same tactic is being used, where Donald Trump said in a meeting by Chuck Schumer that he was going to give amnesty, and the next day he didn't. Or he was tweeting about how there was, we have to protect the DACA kids. And then he said in the Luther Strange speech, it was going to be a virtual wall and then a fence. And then we hear about the 1,000-mile wall that's going to be continuous and concrete. And we have the samples built, and it's going to be an additional $15 billion for border security. So this exact same thing happened. You could say, oh, well, there's a semantic difference that, well, now one congressman has proposed legislation that has nothing to do with the negotiations yesterday, of which we are talking about. But that doesn't change the fact that the same tactic has been used on Syria, on DACA, on Iran, and now this. It is just, look, and again, nobody is saying, to get back to the fundamental point, nobody is saying that you shouldn't get involved in politics. That is not what is being said. Nobody is saying you shouldn't get fired up about immigration, but it's simply saying, for all the black pillars that are saying, Trump is not our guy, Trump is cucking, Trump is doing this, Trump is Bush number 3, it is just complete horse shit. When he signs amnesty, I will get the big dopamine rush, and I'll do the tweet unironically that Trump is George Bush and he's not making America. I will be right there with you. But until something happens, you're full of shit. Until something happens, all you have is words. All you have is gestures. All you have is symbolic actions. And that you should not blackpill people about. It is just disingenuous.
And all you
got
have
nothing to do with faith change. It's about patterns. Hey, maybe you don't believe in patterns, but I do.
All right. People can make up their own minds. We'll see what happens. But Reagan,
really, that's really original. Where did we? I've never heard that one before. Trump, more like Bush number 3, MAGA, LOL. Yeah, I've never heard that one before.
All right. Well, again, nothing is going to be proven until the bill is on his desk and the bill is signed. Right? This is the question at hand. But you got a lot of Republicans looking to make it a quick deal. You got a lot of Republicans looking to get out of this because they know it's disastrous for their midterm chances. They don't want this debate raging around the midterms because they know that people can run to the right of them and win. And you will see a very energized and motivated Republican House on this topic. And you'll see a very equally motivated Republican Senate on this topic. And a very, very highly motivated center-left Democrat contingency on this topic.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. I am 100% confident that I'll be vindicated yet again for the nth time.
Well, I would hope that is correct, but I guess we'll have to see how that materializes. What do you have coming up this weekend?
America First. We have a big debate coming on Monday, and I guess I'll reveal it now. I revealed it in the Discord last night, but I'll be debating on Monday Jacob Wool, that Jewish guy. That'll be fun. I don't really even know this guy, but we got in a big fight on a group DM about the usual. So we're going to be having a big debate on Monday on Israel, so it'll be a little bit more explicit.
Question is, will you put asterisks in his name?
You know that I will.
See, I'm trying my best to keep up with the Twitter memes, despite being a Twitter show.
I gotta tell you, it's changed since you're not on. You got to make an alt. Why haven't you made an alt yet, or like a new account?
Maybe I have.
Lurker.
No, yeah. Well, actually, I'm not going to say whether I have or not, but that's always a possibility. That's always there are ways around it too. I mean, your account gets banned, and then look at that. There's a parody account of you the next day. Wow. Imagine my shock when that happens. Yeah, we'll see. Of course, I would never officially comment on whether any accounts out there claiming to be me or looking like me are actually me. I would never authenticate that here. I know Jack Dorsey's a big fan of the show, so Jack Dorsey's listening in eagerly, waiting for me to reveal my alt handle so we can ban it again. But
there is an account that's just called Real James Allsup, but it's that's James Allsup. This is like a parody.
Yeah, and there is one that's just like James Allsup. Yeah. It's like some like 50-year-old guy, like
I just saw that one
somewhere else, like from England, I think. Yeah. No, not him. Maybe I'll come back. Are Groypers?
Oh yeah,
still
the Groypers still going strong. Still going? You should come back as Ugandan Knuckles.
Yeah, you do not.
In my opinion, that's already stale. I like it a lot, but I think it's because like Tumblr people use it, Reddit people use it.
Well, every like YouTuber did a video about that, like the day it happened, looking for clicks, and now it's like, now it's kind of
2018
played
is
out.
Already moving so fast. I mean, that lasted a day. It lasted like 2 days.
Yeah, like
that's
a 3-day
man. 2018 is going to be crazy. I think we can agree whether we get in a heated argument about DACA or not. The 2018 is going to be. It's already so crazy. It's already more wild than 2017. This is the year when it happens, when the weather cools. I think the prophecy will be fulfilled.
Well, my target story for 2018 and the biggest story of 2018 is, of course, the midterms, and that is going to really. It's not even worth. I mean, people look at like, people always do these kind of like fantasy legislative agendas where they plan out like, throughout a whole president's term, like when the legislation is going to happen. To look that far ahead is very naive, I think, and we're not even going to know if there will be a legislative agenda for Trump if 2018 goes the wrong way, and if things go sideways. There's a very real chance that articles of impeachment could come forward and the whole thing could unravel. And man, you thought Obama was a lame duck in his second term. An impeached Donald Trump would be something else. But they're going to have a hard time doing that because these districts where these people are from, like their taxes are going to be lower. The 18 after April this year, like people are going to be realizing this worked out very well for them, and the economy will hopefully still be running strong at that point. It's going to be a very, very hard argument to make for people that Trump is this massive retard, which is what the Democrats will want to say if things are going pretty well.
I agree. I think that's why tax reform was a good thing. I think that was solid only for the practical purpose of it'll make him a lot harder to oppose in the midterms and just more broadly. I mean, I was watching a video from CBS where they were showing couples and from really poor to pretty wealthy, how they were all getting a pretty sizable tax cut. And you're right. I mean, people are paying less tax. They're going to be happier if there's more jobs coming. And there was a $1.2 billion, I think it was a Toyota plant, I think that was announced was going to be opened in Alabama. They chose Alabama to open it. So you got jobs coming back. You have lower taxes. It's just going to be hard to fight the guy to have the same vitriol. And he's done a very good job of normalizing himself with the political stuff, with the media stuff. I mean, ironically, like how they parody him on SNL and how they brought his advisors on to television. They think they're going to BTFO Trump. It's actually making him more normal, more of a normal president. And that's going to be a huge win for him. But yeah, midterms are definitely going to be the game changer this year. One to watch.
And we'll see. We'll be able to get a good bellwether on how the actual approval of Trump is in these districts by looking at how the candidates run and how each of these congressional candidates aligns himself with Trump or doesn't align themselves with Trump. And that will be a good bellwether going into 2020 as well, when we'll be able to see, okay, how are the representatives in Michigan, in Ohio, aligning themselves with Trump, or are they distancing themselves? Because they're going to know their districts a lot better than we will here at the national level. And they will be there, responding to their district's opinion of Trump, either positively or negatively. And so if we see the representatives in Ohio running towards Trump and aligning themselves with Trump and bringing the president out to stump for them, then that'll be, I think, a very, very good indicator of the direction that the Rust Belt and the country, moreover, is going as we move towards 2020. If, however, we see the representatives in Pennsylvania and in Virginia start to distance themselves and do sort of what our representatives up here, Kathy McMorris Rodgers, did towards Donald Trump and kind of keep him at a distance and say, well, I support him on these things, but I can't, fully endorse him. That's when you'll start to see that'll be a bellwether of trouble going towards 2020, that the districts in these states that the GOP needs to win, frankly, are not aligned.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's historically been a big sign of that, and it'll be exciting to watch. America First election coverage is going to be insane. I mean, we had I think a really good stream for the special Senate election in Alabama. I think 2018 will be a lot of fun, a lot of good coverage. I think you're definitely more involved with the electoral type stuff. And so I think we have a pretty good dynamic there. We'll have a lot of good panels, lots of good coverage. It's going to be exciting. I'm very excited. 2018 will bring great things. Even if it all goes downhill, there'll be a lot of good content, right? A lot of good videos.
Yeah. Right, a lot of good fun live streams, and of course we had several guests on that live stream we did, and no spoilers, but here in a couple weeks I will be doing another. I'll be getting, let's just say, more closely aligned with yet another podcast, and if you think back to the lineup we had on the stream for the Roy Moore election, put two and two together and see what is meant by that. Nothing changing here, nothing changing on Nationalist Review, but you'll be seeing a couple more hours a week of content from me. Well, you'll be seeing that anyways because I'm doing my regular show now. But another place where I'll be giving some commentary. So put two and two together, see what is meant by that. But yeah, you're right. A lot of panels. We'll have the. I got the Ice Ranger supercomputer down here ready to render any type of video. It's not going to be like the Alabama video where we were like running on like a black back screen garbage. We'll be having fun panels. We'll be like Red Ice sort of. They do a pretty good job with their live coverage of events. So we'll be fully up and operational for that. Good news, good stuff. Watch out, CNN. We're coming for you. All very exciting, of course. Again, if you have not already, AmFirstMedia.com/shop. The iconic mug. I just got an update. The mugs are now in Troutdale, Oregon. They have left Troutdale, Oregon, so they're headed up here towards Lewiston, Idaho, which they will then be distributed out of there to my little cozy hamlet here in Pullman, Washington, where I'll be shipping them out hopefully tomorrow if we get them then. If I don't get them in time tomorrow, like morning, then I'll get them out by the day after, by what would that be, Friday? So they'll be in the mail at some point before this Saturday. Very encouraging for you guys. All right, I guess that just about does it. We just kind of bullshitted for 10 minutes there. Anything else?
I think that's everything.
I'm missing out on?
That's all.
Nice. All right. Well, hey, thanks everybody for listening. As always, we do appreciate it. Check out America First on YouTube if you're not already. What are you doing with your life if you're not? And check out my new podcast right here on Spreaker. I'm doing my daily show, so you can hold on. Something is. Oh, the Hill was doing one of those annoying audio pop-ups. I had a Toyota ad. Yeah, I really do hate that. Yeah, so if you're not already listening to my show, go check that out. Linked right here on Spreaker. I'll link it in the description. Doing that on a daily basis. So both Nick and I now have daily programs and a lot of content for you guys. So if you prefer the podcast, I got my show. Prefer the live show, you got Nick's show. We got you covered. And we do appreciate your support for funding both of those operations. So we'll see you guys later. We'll see you on Saturday for another episode of Nationalist Review. See you tonight for America First. See you tomorrow for my program. Thanks for listening, guys. We appreciate it. Talk to you later.